Hi, welcome to Q&A Live. I'm your host, Stephen Drunsic. Today we have a special treat today. We're going to be taking a tour of the Manchester Community Library. I'm fortunate to have the Executive Director, Betsy Bleakie, with us to take us on a tour. So why don't you come on inside with us? Hi, we are inside now, and I've got Betsy Bleakie, the Executive Director of the Mark Skinner Library and the soon-to-be Manchester Community Library, by my side, and she's going to take us on a little bit of a tour. Betsy, thank you for being here with us.
Hi, Stephen.
Fantastic project. I understand you've been quite busy these days.
Absolutely, and happy to show you around.
Well, let's go on a tour. So we are here in this magnificent space. It looks like we're about 95% complete. Is that about accurate?
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about this room, this grand entryway here?
Absolutely. This is our commons area and our lobby. You'll enter from our front doors here. We have two doorways, one to our parking lot and another that will connect to a pathway that will connect to a new crosswalk that's being installed so that the children, especially from our public school, MEMS, will be able to come here safely. Also close to the day school, close to the downtown school, so within walking distance. That was one of the reasons why we chose this location and why we're so excited about it.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, so and in this room here, I'm looking at...
Yes, this is the Commons, where we hope people will use the library as a gathering spot. There are several places in the library where people can gather. The Commons is one of them. We will have a modest little cafe kitchen. We are not in the restaurant business. We're hoping to actually partner with area coffee shops and restaurants to help provide some prepared food as a convenience to library patrons. Just a little place to grab a bagel, to grab a muffin and a cup of coffee. We'll have comfortable seating here, a place to catch up with a friend, check your email, check out a new book, and perhaps leave your child in a program and come out here for a little bit of sanity.
Which will be very handy for a lot of parents in the area.
Absolutely.
To know that right after school, these kids can come within walking distance, have a safe place, spend some time.
And maybe a healthy snack after school, too.
And so will there be some furniture in here?
There will.
I mean, trying to paint this picture for us here as it's going to be completed.
Might be a sofa and some chairs and a couple two top tables if you're in the restaurant business, for two people to sit and have a conversation.
And I see you've got elevator access here, so it's completely ADA accessible.
That's right. That's one of the big distinctions of this library versus the Mark Skinner in the Village, is that we will be completely ADA compliant with no stairs that you have to navigate. We'll have an elevator to go down to the lower level. And
I see you've picked some very nice building materials here. You've got a nice combination between some stone, some wood. Is there any local, are we using local materials wherever possible?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the great things about this project too, is that we have benefited from the gifts, actually, of some materials that we would not have been able to afford on our budget. The slate is one of them that was donated by a local slate quarry. The slate on the roof actually was also donated by a quarry over in Pulteney. Someone who's not even that close to our community heard about the project and decided to invest, and that was about a $150,000 donation of slate. So that's happened throughout the project.
Okay, and of course I saw we were standing on this beautiful marble patio outside.
That's another one. And, in our budget we had a concrete sidewalk and concrete patios, both in the entrance and out back. And the Danby Marble Quarry has donated the marble, and a local philanthropist has contributed to the installation cost. So having this beautiful entrance was really a net zero to our budget. It's a wonderful investment in a community institution.
Sure, it certainly ties us into Vermont, the Vermont vernacular with all the materials.
Oh yeah, local materials.
I think the building is certainly going to be iconic. So, well, let's walk into the space. I know this is a very large building. There's obviously a lot more to see here, so let's move on. Hey, wow, what a great space here. This obviously reminds me of a great hall. Certainly not a typical hall you might associate with a library, although then again, maybe this is the future of a library. Can you tell me about this room?
Sure. This room encompasses a lot of the traditional library functions. And what we've done is we've taken many of the spaces at the current Mark Skinner Library, which are on 5 vertical levels. And we've taken that vertical footprint and we've kind of spread it around onto one single floor.
Okay.
So this is the grab and go section. We'll have our help desk here, formerly called the circulation desk, but here is a place where folks can come and get help and check out materials.
Kind of get oriented.
Exactly. And the great thing is we have a great sight line of the front door. You might know in our current library, patrons enter on 1 floor and the staff is actually up 2 levels, so we don't really see who's coming and going. So this is great not only for safety, but also for people to know
and for
where to
efficient
go.
pedestrian flow.
Exactly, exactly. So this will be where our bestsellers will be, our DVDs and audiobooks, kind of the hustle and bustle part, similar to a bookstore, where you're hot off the presses, bestsellers, and digital media will be displayed.
All right.
As we walk down, we've created sort of a space within a space in this room. And
will there actually be dividers, physical dividers?
There will be 2 that will go up about 7 feet, and when we get to those, I can point those out to you. But this section here is where our technology will be.
Okay.
And
now, when you say technology, what kind of technology are we?
Well, we'll have hardwired computers that will be available for patrons. We have both iMacs and PCs, and the role of a library in this digital age is to provide not only free Wi-Fi, we'll also have broadband fiber, we'll have the fastest speed and download capacity really in town, but to have a place where people can come, use technology, and also get free technology assistance. We have 2 staff members who are sort of our technology tutors, and they can help people from operating a mouse for the very first time to how to use email to even something as advanced as learning how to use a PowerPoint presentation.
And is that because you've seen that there's been some demand from a segment of the population here in the region for having access to technology, having access to the network?
I mean, even now at the current Mark Skinner Library, because many people don't have Wi-Fi at home, and technology now is no longer a convenience in your life.
It is
a necessity to live a productive life. So,
and of course, here in rural Vermont, obviously there are certain areas where we don't have access to high speed. It's just kind of just by nature of where we live.
And even in the current
library, this will provide that. That'll kind of plug that gap for a lot of folks. Locally.
Many people will sit in our parking lot and open up their laptops just to use the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So it's very important.
So when you say it's free, it's actually legitimately
it is
free.
Legitimately
you don't have to come in here and get a code.
No, no. It's free and available to anyone who wants to come in and set up shop.
All right.
So technology will be here. We will also have books out on the walls, so there will be books surrounding you in this hall.
So there will be books in this new library.
I know, believe it or not, yes. Here's where one of those library dividers will be.
Okay.
That will, again, help create a space within a space. This area here is where we will have typical library work tables. You know, a place where someone could come and spread out some papers, take a book.
Collaborative working area.
Yeah, exactly. Or work, singularly as well. But it's a quiet place to come and spread out some papers, take a book off the Vermont History Collection, do a little research, or just work in an environment that's different from your own. That's one of the sayings about a new library is that it's your 3rd place. It's not your home or your school, and it's not your work.
And people do like to assemble.
They do.
Tend to like to work and assemble in community spaces. So
absolutely.
Just one quick question about the book collections. Are there any special collections that you'll be housing in this area?
Well, we currently house the Vermont History Collection,
Okay.
and we are going to be partnering more with the Manchester Historical Society on how to house and protect and preserve that collection. You know, we're growing our collection. As we are weeding our collection, we're adding to our collection so that the collection is always current and desirable, and so it will circulate more.
Okay.
The more you weed a collection of books in the library, the more it circulates and it gets out there. So that's a big goal that the library staff has been working on for the last several months.
Well, from one pulp user, I like to say I'm certainly not an ebook reader, although I know a lot of people are doing that now, and I know that you're
Yep.
going to have
We already have access
to those
ebooks.
ebook collections.
Yeah, and
but for me, I just like to hold a
Well,
tangible book in front
and
of
that
me,
absolutely
and
is
so that I
still-
can still
yeah,
see why that's
that-
going to be
yep.
important for a major segment of the demographic here, so.
Absolutely. Like ebooks right now, after the excitement of them, they have now kind of plateaued a little bit, and people have now incorporated ebooks into their life where it makes sense for them. But I can assure you, our circulation of real books in the last 3 years has never been stronger
Oh,
since the advent of ebooks. So what ebooks has done, it has just introduced reading and a love of literacy to some new people. And so, you know, books are going to be here for a long, long while.
We certainly hope
Confident
so.
of that. Confident of that.
With the help of facilities like this.
Yep.
Okay. And
Yep.
so,
So then now we're moving down into, we're getting quieter as we're
Okay.
moving down.
sure.
And we're ending in the quietest part of the library, which is the Mark Skinner Reading Room.
Okay.
So we're taking the name of our founder with us.
I see it looks like you're going to be putting a large fireplace
We will
in.
have a
That certainly will be
fireplace.
very inviting, and you'll probably have some nice, comfortable furniture
Exactly.
for folks to settle
Exactly.
down and tuck up with a book, I
Yep,
suppose.
yep. Well, the building has been designed all along to meet the LEED Silver standards. And we've also had Efficiency Vermont on board continually. We've had other consultants about environmental issues, and
So we're expecting that this facility is going to be certainly a lot more efficient than the existing facility
as
up in
far
the
as
buildings.
some operating expenses like heating and cooling, yes, we
Okay.
do expect that.
Okay.
We've invested in the building with SIPS panels, which are structural insulating panel system, and that is a long life investment that will help us down the road with heating and cooling and keeping this building very tight. So that's an investment in our future
Great.
to keep costs in line down the road.
Great.
So we've made some decisions. The board has made some decisions like that for our long-term sustainability of the building.
Okay. Wow, what a room here. Betsy, I understand this is called the Hunter Community Room, and this is something pretty fantastic in terms of drama of the space. I see you've got post and beam construction in here.
Yep.
High ceilings, certainly has a lot of potential use. Can you tell me about what this room may be potentially used for?
Yep. This would be used for both library programs as well as use in the community.
Okay.
This could be used for everything from a music performance to an art exhibit to a business workshop.
What's the capacity in this room?
For a presentation style, we can fit about 150 people in, and then the beauty is that if we had a larger capacity, that the furnishings that are in this room can be pushed aside, and we can extend seating out if
Okay.
something were happening in the evening.
Could we enclose the space if need be?
Yep, there will be big barn doors here
wow.
to make it
Okay.
its own space.
Now tell me about the technological infrastructure
Yep,
here.
yep. We will have a screen that will come down in front of those windows.
Okay.
We will have the capacity to shade this room, and we will have state-of-the-art technology available for
So-
streaming, for webinars, for videos.
So I could potentially do a corporate retreat or maybe
Absolutely.
some off-campus learning
Yep,
potentially.
yep.
Are there any plans with any local learning institutions
Yep.
to potentially have distance learning?
Exactly, and actually
Program here?
downstairs there's another room that we're
Okay.
calling also a community classroom.
Okay.
But it could happen in here as well. and we're talking with institutions both in Bennington and Rutland about how to utilize Manchester as sort of a geographic niche in between the two big cities that are on either side of us. And so there are lots of conversations around distance learning.
Okay, and of course, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just noticed that here you've got the continuation of this marble patio out here,
right,
which is obviously nice. And I guess that kind of ties into this area, which potentially can be utilized as its own functioning space for certain events.
So this could be a rental opportunity and a revenue stream for the library.
Which is important.
We're renting it in October, actually, to a doctor from the Rutland Hospital who's coming down here to educate the community about joints. Not the kind of joints that you're
What are you talking to me about?
but about joint replacements and whatnot. So again, the library being a community resource center and able to share information from a broad range of topics is
this
another
really
role.
ties into this, the role of this room.
Exactly.
Well, this is certainly something fantastic, and I certainly expect it'll get a lot of use.
Yep, we're already booking up into April.
Great. Now I understand there's a downstairs to this whole area?
There is. Let's go.
Let's go on downstairs. Okay, here we are downstairs. Look at this. So this is a nice, brightly lit room. I know you've got some natural lighting behind us.
A little light down here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about where we are.
Well, this is our lower lobby. It can be a gallery space. We hope to have things of beauty on the walls throughout the library, as well as this can be a bit of a business and education center down here.
Okay. I see you've got this room in front of us.
Yep, that's our seminar conference room. We'll have a conference table in there that can seat about 16 people. Okay. And tables can be broken apart for tutorials or workshops.
So again, you'll have conferencing technology,
exactly,
network technology, all the modern.
Yep. And then this is what I mentioned earlier, that this could be a community classroom as well for ongoing training.
For smaller groups than upstairs.
Professional development opportunities, exactly. Okay. And then this space could be used as a spill-out reception area if somebody wanted to rent the lower level. And this is also a space for rental opportunities like Weight Watchers or a small yoga class. So lots of uses.
And very interesting that we're talking about the modern library, and we can incorporate yoga classes.
That's
in
right.
The whole.
It's another type of education and enrichment. So,
sure.
And then these spaces are really new to
tell me about
the library.
These they look like little, I guess, office spaces.
They are. They're private and secure offices for a short-term rental opportunity. So this would be a revenue stream. Again, there are many spaces in the library where people can set up and work and read and for free. But if you wanted to count on something, if you were a self-employed person or an entrepreneur or somebody that needed to do business in town but needed to touch down and work and have an interview or meet with someone privately, you can lock this up, rent it for 2 hours or maybe 2 days.
Wow, okay.
And touch down and get some work done and use it as your own little private workspace.
I can see a substantial demand for something like this kind of asset. It's a little bit unique. It's, what do you call it, a touchdown workspace, where you kind of have an office on the fly for folks that may be up here for an extended period of time, but they still have to attend to some business and they need a quiet space. And obviously this looks like it fulfills its function.
That's right. On one of the tours, a fellow said, it was great, he said, "Oh my gosh," he said, "every year at Thanksgiving my brother-in-law comes to stay with us, and by the second day he's ready to pull his hair out. He wants to get out of my kitchen with the giblets and the gravy
and got to get back to work,
go someplace where he can have some peace and quiet and conduct some business." So so yeah, we're hoping that this provides a much needed space in Manchester, especially with our business, the economic reinvention of Manchester. Having
this certainly is another
part of the
asset in the quiver.
The business incubator project. Yeah, exactly.
Good. All right. Okay, so tell me, I understand now that the community library is donating some or making some square footage available to a couple nonprofits in the area?
That's right. We've got the Vermont Reading Partners who will have their offices here. They're a strategic partner in literacy in the community. And then down here we are continuing our long relationship with the Manchester Historical Society and providing them with space for their archives, their collections, as well as a workspace area for them.
Boy, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
I know they've needed a room to house their
Yeah,
collections.
exactly.
So.
And that's another role still of a library, is to help preserve and protect a community's heritage and history. So
Sure.
we're really excited that we will be strengthening our relationship with the Historical Society, and we'll be able to offer them some display space upstairs where they could actually get some of their things out into the community in more ways than perhaps they've enjoyed recently. So here we have the Children's Barn,
Okay.
which is its own wing of the library. And we're walking right now through the early readers section, which is really for school-aged kids from maybe first grade.
Oh, see, of course, we're in the construction zone, so we do have to watch where we walk.
This is going to be the flooring that's going in our story craft room.
Okay.
So again, this section will be meant for kids.
So a dedicated wing for children.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And every age group sort of has their own space. So this will have books and computers meant for kids, I'd say first grade to fourth grade.
Okay.
Early readers is what we call them, and that's a great age. And then we're coming into our pre-K room. This is where it all happens for a community. This is where we provide a unique space that is meant for toddlers, infants, toddlers, all the way up to kindergartners.
Okay.
And this room is just as much about play and positive early literacy experiences as it is about reading.
Now, will it be parental supervision required, or
Well,
do you
yeah,
intend to have someone here that's watching toddlers?
Well, we'll have a children's librarian, but
Okay.
usually with toddlers and infants, parents are a part of that, parents
Okay.
and caregivers. So
Sure.
yes, and we'll have great early literacy experiences here: play, dress up, Legos. Of course,
Potential children's events? I
Oh,
presume?
absolutely, absolutely. Our Rhyme Time for Tots will happen.
And then what is this area back here?
Well, that's our story and craft room.
Okay.
And that's a dedicated space for the noisier activities, the music, the rhyming, the songs, the dance. Also for messy activities like crafts.
Okay.
So we'll have a sink in there. And when something is going on in that room, we have the opportunity to close the doors, and people can still enjoy the main part of the children's barn at the same time.
Because I think, the whole concept of having a children's wing where they can be a little bit noisier,
Absolutely.
they can be kids, they don't have to be hushed.
Absolutely.
Obviously, to have them contained in their own environment certainly suits the purposes of the rest of the folks that need to have a quieter environment.
And
to
you'll
work
see
in.
that we have
So,
strategically placed the noisiest of our patrons far away from the Mark Skinner reading room. So that was done very purposefully in the design of the building. So really excited about this space. Again, when the Mark Skinner Library was built in 1897, it had one purpose only, and that was books and reading. And now we've designed a space that's more about people than books.
And families of all ages.
Children weren't even part of it back then. Children were not welcome in a library back in those days. So very different. And this is a space where new families to the community meet each other. They form attachments and bonds. They can help support each other. And we can actually help prepare our youngest citizens to be ready when they hit our schools, to be prepared to learn and to thrive as students. So it's an important role.
certainly. Wow, that is great.
All right, Leah, why don't you come down and I'll show you the
loft?
The loft.
Okay.
Ready? So the last of our children that this library will be servicing are our middle school kids.
Okay.
And this is the space that's dedicated to them.
Okay.
We're calling this the loft. and it's meant for kids in 5th grade to 8th grade, which is often a demographic that's forgotten in a community. You know, everyone focuses on the little kids, and adults, of course, focus on what interests them. But the teens and the tweens often are forgotten. So we felt it was important to provide them a space that they could come after school, in between sports practices, waiting for their parents to get out from work.
Okay.
A place that will have their books and their materials, and a place to hang out, a place to do homework, a place where we have Wi-Fi for them to use the technology that most of our schools provide for students. But many students go home to houses that don't have Wi-Fi, so they can bring those laptops and those iPads into the library, connect with a caring adult here and some exciting programs, and really
get a snack.
And get a snack and get a jump start on their homework, work on some group projects.
Okay.
And this will be the place that they will make their own. Yet we'll be able to keep an eye on them because the help desk will be right outside.
Okay.
And also kids at that age, they also, even though they want their own space, they also want to feel like they're kind of in the mix of what's happening. So I think they will have a great sense of a little privacy, yet being part of it all, which I think will be great.
Great.
Last thing that we didn't talk about, which is around the corner from the Cafe Commons, is our the upper gallery and laptop bar.
Okay.
And there's a great story about that. We will have a counter with some high-top chairs. Again, it's another place to sit with your laptop, have a quick little meeting with somebody. The great story behind that is that when we had to go into construction for the site here, there was a maple tree that was outside.
I remember it.
Yep. And it was with deep regret and a lot of angst that we had to cut down the tree because it would not have survived the excavation of the site. But what we did, which was really cool, is we hung on to the wood and we had it kiln dried and then stored. And now we are partnering with Bob Gasparetti, who, as you know, is a fabulous furniture maker and craftsman. And Bob is taking the wood and he's evaluated it, and we are going to have him build us some furniture. And one piece will be our laptop bar, which will be in the upper gallery. He'll also be able to carve some of the tables that we'll be using in the commons. So we really, you know, we wanted to honor that tree.
We'll call it the Giving Tree.
Well, maybe, exactly.
One of the famous children's books of all time.
I know, Shel Silverstein, right. I love that book.
Well, that was a fantastic tour. I appreciate you showing us the space, and I think it's going to generate a lot of excitement. I know that we're looking forward to a move-in somewhere around November 15th now as a target move-in date?
That's right.
Okay, well, obviously, in doing some research, and I always try to do a little bit of research for each show, I thought I'd look up Wikipedia of what a library institution is and what it means. And what I found interesting is that the modern library, as defined by Wikipedia, actually began in 1850, which I thought was kind of funny because you would expect an entry where they would accommodate, you know, how a library fits into the digital era.
Yep.
And I think that brings up an important question that you probably receive when you're talking about this project here is, why does Manchester need a new library? In an era, in the digital era, where people are reading electronic books, where people are using their library less and less, why would we need to invest in a new facility such as this?
That's a great question, and we do get that a lot. And I think actually the word library can be a detriment sometimes because people do get focused on library equals books. And certainly in 1897, when the Mark Skinner Library was built, that was the case, and that was the one role of a library. But in today's world, the word library means many more things to a community. It is a gathering place where people connect with each other, which especially in a digital age you still need that. You need a physical place for a virtual world. We are a place, most of the things that people do or seek from a library all boils down to seeking information, and whether that information comes through a book or through a speaker, through a conference, a workshop, access to information to all is the primary role that a library can provide, and having people who can help you navigate through the sea of information that we are bombarded with in this digital age. So,
well, it does seem to me that the concept of a library, I guess it's somewhat of a misnomer, because as defined, it's actually a resource or store of a collection of information. So of course that information doesn't have to be in pulp form.
Right, that's right.
And I know Ian Fraser of the New Yorker said the public library is a great democratizer.
Yes.
And I think that's certainly
Yes.
Something that's valid with what we're trying to do here in terms of bringing the community together and offering equal access.
That's right. That's right.
Equal access not just to books, but to technology, and certainly to particular areas that are going to be productive for families, for young adults. So it seems like this is going to have a little bit of something for everyone.
There really is no other institution in a community that can serve people of all ages and life stages and walks of life, from their infancy to their 100s. And so that is a role that a library can play that is very unique. And as long as libraries continue to look ahead and anticipate the needs of the people in a community and help provide that and serve that, then libraries will always be relevant. And the materials and the services might change, and the degree of how many books to how many other kinds of things may shift or may not. But as long as we continually look at how we are serving the needs of the people in a community, we will be a valued community institution.
Now, if we can step back a few years, the Mark Skinner Library Board of Trustees a number of years ago didn't just conjure up this idea of building a new library out of thin air. As I understand, there was a particular event or a large bequest made by an individual, which was kind of the catalyst for thinking outside the box, thinking about, I know they'd always been wrestling with the fact that the existing facility up in the village is not very efficient. The way it's laid out, it's not very energy efficient.
Right.
It certainly doesn't serve the needs of the entire community. It's not ADA compliant.
Right.
So I understand can we talk a little bit about that catalyst?
Sure,
and maybe the process for how this project came to be.
Yep. Well, certainly the bequest from a library patron at the time, Lynn Hoyt, started the ball rolling. She left the library a large gift, and the board at the time put that money aside wisely and said, okay, we need to evaluate where we are and where we're going. And so a strategic plan was put into place, and there was extensive community involvement in that. There were focus groups that were held. I was actually part of the advisory committee back then and helped facilitate and was a part of those community focus groups. So we asked the community what they wanted in a 21st century library. And that information helped inform the board as they put out a strategic plan. It was evaluated whether we should remodel the existing Mark Skinner building or move and build. And after a big study was done, it was determined that in order to stay in the village which was no longer the heart of our community as it was in 1897, that not only would we still not be serving many of the population that could benefit from a public library, but that in order to utilize that building structure and retrofit it, we would be left with a less than ideal building in a less than ideal location. So it was decided that we would look around and build.
Okay, and build with private funds?
Yes, the bequest certainly provided the nest egg for that. And this building has been built entirely through private philanthropy.
Okay.
And we looked at 17 different properties in town. So this has taken a while to be, it's been very carefully thought through and evaluated. And
how did you arrive at a footprint? I believe, what is the footprint of this building, or the total usable square footage?
It's about 18,000 square feet.
A lot of folks might say, for a town that's got a year-round population of 4,500, that seems a little bit large.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that we do serve Manchester, no doubt about it. But because we are, Manchester has the unique position that we actually are more of a regional town. We have folks from Dorset and surrounding communities who utilize Manchester for their shopping and their banking and their kids go to school here even if they might reside elsewhere. So even the current Mark Skinner Library up in the heart of the village, we have folks who are non-resident members of that library from 26 different Vermont towns. So we actually serve a much broader population than just Manchester. And those folks, they have to pay to do that. Manchester residents can belong or be members of our library for free because their taxes help support our operating budget.
Which brings me to another question. I understand that the operating budget, a portion of that operating budget each year is funded by the taxpayers.
That's correct.
And they have to vote on that budget each year,
every year
at the annual town meeting in March.
That's right.
I understand, of course, moving into a new facility, a facility that's certainly substantially larger than the old facility, it's going to have additional staffing requirements, additional energy requirements, technology requirements. The operating budget has increased.
It has.
And as with any additional burden on the town taxpayer, of course, you've had to make your case, and I know the boards had to make their case to the town, but you've always certainly received the support of the town through the vote.
We have.
So do you believe that you will continue to see year after year the support for this increased operating budget from the taxpayers once they start to utilize the services and see this facility in full operation?
Well, I think that once this new facility is used, that the value that our taxpayers place on this as a community resource center will cause them to continue to want to support their public library. And but we are aggressively seeking alternative revenue streams.
Which obviously you have the opportunity in this new space now, which you did not have.
That's right. That's right.
Which will probably be an important factor in your budgeting going forward.
That's right.
The potential revenue generator this building will offer.
That's right. So we are aggressively looking at ways to add revenue streams so that we can be financially sustainable. But a public library does, I think, deserve the support of the taxpayers for the betterment of all in a community. And actually at the last town meeting, when we did ask for an increase, the lion's share of that increase was merely to do two things. It was to restore my existing staff to full strength, where for the past 4 or 5 years we had decreased hours. So we were functioning on a staff that was hobbled by reduced hours. And we also have been closed on Mondays for many years because of our budgetary restraints. So again, the bulk of the increase was really just to restore staff to a full capacity. I couldn't justify moving into a beautiful new facility with a staff that was minimized. So that was a big part of it. And also, we had not asked the town for any additional funds for the 3 years prior. We had remained level funded, not even with a cost of living increase. So we were kind of functioning on fumes up there in the village for the last 3 years. So we added Monday, so we increased hours of operating, and then we restored the staff. That was the bulk of what we asked the taxpayers to do to help in this current budget.
And of course, they responded, at least a majority,
They did.
By supporting this
They did.
institution. I think what is important is that this project is sold as an investment to the community.
Yep.
Much as the new Park House, much as the development downtown with the traffic.
The roundabout.
You know, obviously our taxes, you know, they're substantial. Of course, they're substantial throughout the state. But when you turn around and you make an assessment of what your taxes are going towards, it appears from my point of view that this community, the citizens in this community for the most part, recognize that we have to continue to reinvest in order to grow this town, to grow this region. And I think this certainly is one of the larger assets to come online in a number of years.
I mean, if you only look at a library as a place for books, someone might say, well, you have a place for books. Why would you need a new place for books?
Well,
that's the difference, is that a library, a 21st century library, is so much more than just a place for books.
Right. And I guess that brings up another question. Why was there any deliberation on using the word library altogether versus maybe calling it the Manchester Community Center?
We did.
I know there's obviously been a lot of historical discussions throughout the years, even decades, about having a community center in Manchester.
Yes.
Maybe this serves that purpose now.
It kind of does.
And the whole concept of calling it a library is a little bit myopic for some folks, or maybe for me, for anyone.
I think it
we have a more of an antiquated image of what a library is. And so
I think you're right. I think that has been a stumbling block for some folks to wrap their minds around what we're doing here. And a community center or a hub for information and enrichment and education and for business, for kids, for seniors, for young people, like the Northshire Young Professionals Group, to have a place to come maybe in the evenings. You know, we touch so many people, and it's more than a place for books, and that's how a library has evolved, and we are continuing that. In the design of this building, we increase space to serve the needs of people in the community that would use this in a way that's very different than the traditional definition of a library. And we did, actually. We talked about changing the name of this, and we decided that there were so many more positive elements to the word library that to cast it off would have sort of seemed a little disingenuous, and so we hung on to it. But it has caused us some confusion in people only thinking about it in one way and not hearing how it's changed and evolved.
Now we're here in Manchester Center now. We're on Cemetery Avenue, next to a cemetery.
Yep.
Can you tell me how we landed on this piece of property? I know there's been, I think, some misinformation out there that this land was given to the library. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, well, as I said, we did look at 17 different properties, and we're delighted with this location because of its proximity to our local public school, Northshire Day School, the new downtown school that's opening across the road. So it really is a fabulous location in that it anchors the northern sector of our business and downtown. And we came to this property through a good friend and local businessman, Bill Drunsic. And Bill, we bought this part of the property from Bill. We purchased it, so the library owns it. And then Bill is building something right across the parking lot for his own purposes, his own business needs. And we will share a parking lot with Bill. So again, a way to be a little financially prudent in that we're sharing some infrastructure costs. And it was a great deal for, I think, both of us. And we're thrilled with the location.
And of course, I think it's nice to have these two structures mirroring each other, and it certainly adds a lot of activity to this otherwise quiet little side street off Main Street. You talked about fiscal prudence. I understand that, as with a number of projects of this magnitude, typically budgets get stretched, budgets get increased. Can you talk about whether or not we've maintained our budget in terms of when this project was initially started, or has the budget had to have been increased? Or
we have seen a little increase in our budget, which is not unusual in a construction project that's lasted as many years as we've been planning this project. And when that budget was first put into place, material costs have increased, labor has fluctuated, cost of labor and materials. So it's been about a little less than a 10% increase in on our budget, which I think is pretty good. I've heard of many other projects that have had much larger budget creep than we. We've also had some wonderful things come into play that have added to a little bit of time here, a little shift in labor needs there. For instance, the slate on the roof was a donation from a friend over in Poultney. And when that was, we had a metal seam roof that was in our budget. So having somebody donate slate so that we would have a 100-year roof on a building that also is designed to last that and beyond was a real gift to us, but it then meant that we had to line up, someone to put the slate on the roof, and so there were little things like that were all very good and positive, but every little shift like that, adds a level of complexity to a project. So I think all in all, we have kept an eye on the budget very carefully and made some tough decisions about phasing things in, and also investing in this building so that in the long haul it will perform better in its systems and in its insulation and energy efficiency. So we've made, I think, some very good decisions, but with any project, sometimes there are some unforeseen things that you have to deal with.
Sure.
So.
Well, I certainly appreciate you spending some time to talk about this project. You can tell us, November 15th is the opening date?
That's right. We'll have a grand opening celebration, community-wide gathering here.
Okay. Now, is there any special event?
We're working on that.
Is the whole community invited?
The whole community is invited, absolutely. And we will have some things happening throughout the library that will be very exciting. A chance to see how some of the spaces will be used.
Okay.
And it'll be really fun.
Good.
So
well,
I invite everybody to come. And one of the phrases that one of our donors coined is in a recent event was that he said, "I expect that the 6 most used words in town coming up here are going to be, I'll meet you at the library." So on November 15th, I hope that everyone will come and meet us at the library.
Well, thank you for meeting me at the library.
All right.
And thank you all for joining me. It's been another edition of Q&A Live. Q&A Live. I'm your host, Stephen Drunsic. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Hi, this is Stephen Drunsic here, and this is a full disclaimer that I'd just like to share with you. I do serve on the Board of Trustees for the Mark Skinner Library. That said, I do believe that this is a project that is very important for this community, and I would encourage you all to come support this Manchester Community Library. I certainly am a supporter of it, and I do think this is one of the most important projects to hit this area in quite some time. So come on in, check it out. We'll see you November 15th. Thanks.